Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this webinar, 3 a.m. problem. We're talking about dwell time. I am your DJ and MC for the night, Cory Clark, Vice President of Threat Operations for SonicWall SonicSentry. I have a new guest. I figured everybody was tired of seeing my face and just listening to me talk. So I brought the man, the myth, the legend, the Mr. Beef. Please introduce yourself, sir.
Hi there, everybody. I am Nick Beef Colonna. I am the Senior Threat Analyst for the SonicSentry Security Operations Center. Deal with the SOC.
Deal with the SOC. That's it. Wait, I got to do it.
I'm Zach Christensen. I'm a threat analyst at SonicWall. Deal with the SOC.
Deal with the SOC. Love it. We got the call out. Snuck it in there. My marketing people can yell at me later. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to try to get this in 30 minutes. More than likely, it's going to be 45 minutes. All right. So again, the 3 a.m. problem. This is a 3-part webinar series. Go to Bright Talk. Sign up for all of them. Listen to me talk. I'm going to be bringing probably different people each time, talking about, again, what happens at 3 a.m. What's going on at 3 a.m.? Nothing good, right? Learned that from my parents long ago. Nothing happens well after, midnight out in the real world. So, all right. So let's actually dive into the real talk here. So how much damage can really happen in 3 hours? A lot. Let's put it that way. A lot can happen in 1 hour, but you give me 3 hours, there's a lot of damage I can do, plain and simple. So let's start in and dive into what is dwell time. What does dwell time actually mean? Well, Webster, no, it's the time between compromise and detection, right? So the longer the dwell time means the more capabilities, the more things that can happen in that time frame, or the more access being given. Obviously, the more access that you give and that you give them time to access within an environment means the more damage they can do, or bigger the blast radius. Now, if you've been on any of my webinars, you are very intimately familiar with that picture of that house. That house is not going to go away. I refuse to let it die, because it helps me talk about security. Originally, I talk about prevention, detection, response. But since we're talking about dwell time, I want to kind of go back to previous conversations. You have the front door to your house. That is the entry point, the primary entry point into your house, where you're leaving, where you're living, and where you're leaving at the same time, right? So if that being said, if I come up to your door and you have it deadbolted, maybe it's even a nice solid wood door, and I'm on the other end and I'm kicking and I'm kicking. I'm about 216 pounds, right? So I got a little bit of weight to me. Some people say I got a lot of weight to me, but I got a little bit of weight to me, right? So I'm kicking and I'm shoulder checking. By now I would have blew a hamstring because I'm old and out of shape. But with enough time of me kicking that door, with enough force and effort, I am going to get in. And then now you're going to have to deal with me while I'm in the house. So if you had, that's the dwell time, the amount of time I had of kicking that door. Now, once I'm in your house, I'm going to town. So the amount of time I have to go through your house, steal your stuff, break your stuff, right? That is dwell time. Now, let's take it to a different scenario. Smoke detectors. We all have smoke detectors in our house. Its purpose is to go off, beep, 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 right? Its purpose is to go off when it detects smoke or carbon monoxide. Agreed? Cool. So I'm out at the mall. I'm shopping. I'm getting the latest and greatest Jinko jeans. Awesome. So there's a kitchen fire that starts in my house. Those smoke detectors are going off. I'm not there to hear it. So what's going to end up happening, Beef?
Well, that house is going to burn until either you get home and notice that there's a fire going on, or maybe one of your neighbors has noticed that you've got a fire going on in your house, and they call the fire department and police on your behalf.
That's it. So the longer that fire can burn, that is dwell time. So it started in my kitchen, and I could stop it in my kitchen if I had the ability to respond to it. But the longer I give it to burn, my whole house, more destruction. My whole house is going to burn to the ground. Now, how can I combat that?
I could think of 2 scenarios where you could combat this.
Okay.
And they kind of fit into the scenarios we're going to talk about today. You could either hire somebody to sit and watch your house during the day, make sure nothing bad happens. Maybe you got a security team that rolls around in your neighborhood and they do periodic checks. Or maybe you have something like an ADT where they're going to have a continuous monitoring inside the house. And that way, when something goes wrong and they detect a change in the environment, they're going to let somebody know quicker than either you could. Hell, they may catch you, but they may catch it before you even if you were in the house and they're saying, hey, we need to call the fire department right now because there's a fire in this house that this person doesn't know about yet.
Okay, so you have ADT monitoring that reduces your dwell time because someone's monitoring it. You have 24/7 coverage and monitoring of that front door, of that smoke alarm, smoke detector, whatever you want to call it. So that will reduce your amount of dwell time. Look at this. Look at how we're combining all this and bringing this in. Awesome. All right. So let's talk about what can happen in a few hours. It's a little bit more than a few hours, but let's talk about what can happen. What do we typically see when a compromise occurs, Beef?
All right. So in this scenario, we're talking about a timeline of approximately 6 hours. So the first thing that happens in the 6 hours is we detect a suspicious login. Now that suspicious login may be account of it's in a weird location. Obviously, it's 2:18 in the morning. Does this person typically work these hours in the morning? Are they maybe traveling and we weren't aware of it? There's a lot of different factors that go into this. Maybe it's a known malicious IP address that we've received in threat intelligence and have said, hey, if you see a login from this IP address, that may not be such a good thing for your environment. We have to do some digging into seeing why that might be occurring in the environment.
Anomalistic times, VPN logins, login from areas you're not supposed to, right? Maybe we're seeing just constant brute forces. Now all of a sudden there's a successful login, right? There's a lot of things that can go into a suspicious login. Okay.
Absolutely.
That happens at 2:18.
So yeah, happens at 2:18. And now our next goal is we're going to try to elevate our permissions. So we're going to try to gain some kind of administrative permissions. We're going to try to gain some system level permissions. Maybe we have a chance to get local admin. Maybe we have an opportunity to compromise domain credentials, and then we can access any computer, any host within that domain.
Okay. So most common scenario I'm seeing is I compromised your VPN, right?
Mm-hmm.
I did a business email compromise. Your end user fell for my phishing attack. I get their credentials. I'm able to figure out, okay, I can log in using their credentials into the VPN. 2:18 in the morning.
Yep.
Now I'm on the RDS server because that's where that VPN takes me, to the RDS server. Awesome. I'm on that RDS server and I'm logged in as D Livingston, and D Livingston is only a just regular domain user. That's not going to get me my end goal of what I want. That's not enough access into the environment. So I'm going to start doing what I can to do a privilege escalation. I need more rights, more abilities. Okay. I got it through many different tactics or techniques. I'm in. I escalated my privileges, my abilities. What's next?
Okay. So now this is kind of where it depends on the objective of the threat actor that might be in the environment. We'll say this, in this case, it's a ransomware. So now we're looking for critical data. We're looking for customer data. Maybe we're looking for databases that are going to store customer data, anything that might be proprietary data or something that shouldn't be out there on the public internet. These are the types of files that we're going to be looking for. So we're going to be targeting things like file servers, potentially be targeting domain controllers, different database servers that might be out there. There's a multitude of different targets we're going to be looking through. So we're looking to laterally move through the network and trying to accomplish getting to every different piece of the network that we are able to get visibility into. So that way we can start to gather the data and start to stage it for exfiltration. So that way we have a kind of a control and compromise over the situation where if you come back and you say, okay, yeah, we can still back up. Yeah, but now we have your data. We have your data and we're going to release it if you don't pay this ransom.
Well, we'll get there. Hold on. I love it. Yeah. Finally, someone that talks as fast as I do. I love it. East Coast. You're not East Coast. But anyways, okay, so we're talking about lateral movement. Just being on that RDS server is not going to get me enough. I need my honeypots, right? Where am I going to go to get the biggest bang for my buck that I know I can get some type of money out of this organization? So as you said, file servers, that's where all the files are stored, right? Could be. And what kind of files are being stored in that environment? Let's go. I want to get to SQL servers. There's database servers because there's a lot of proprietary information that could be on there. If you got any dev servers in the environment. And then, of course, no compromise is complete unless I get on your domain controllers, which hosts Active Directory. That's where I'm going to get a lot of, I can get more credentials. I can create new credentials. I can, create more persistence within the environment, through careers is things that stick with you. And one of the compromises that I thought was the coolest is when I saw them use group policy to leave persistence in the environment. And what was cool is, I think by chance, I'll call it by chance because I'm not that good. I'll say other people say I am, but I'm not that good. I'll say that. Where it was a deleted group policy object that was still running. And by chance, I decided to open up @cedit, saw that deleted or tombstone group policy object, but that is exactly what was being used to run persistence to infect the whole environment, right? So domain controllers are essential. And no, like I said, no compromise is complete unless we get on that domain controller. So here we go. We started that suspicious login at 2:18. We're already up to 4:20 a.m. So that is 2 hours, right, of dwell time, of being able to do, if I just got to the RDS server, a SOC saw me and kicked me out, I didn't do much. Yes, I compromised some credentials. Yes, I got in, but now they're going to remediate. But I've had 2 hours. I'm starting to do lateral movement. Okay. Fast forward another 2 hours. Why am I accessing a backup server?
We're accessing the backup server because now we have a kind of a clinch hold on their data that they can back up to. So if we can successfully move in and ransom that data as well, we're able to encrypt it. You no longer have backups that you can reliably go to unless you have some offsite in a cold storage space. If we can access any of the data that you have connected to your network, we are able to encrypt that data, and that may affect any backup pinpoint that you might be able to roll back to. That's where we're focused at. So we want to prevent you from being able to just say, well, screw you, I'm just going to roll back to my old data. No, you're not. We got that data too. You don't have a rollback anymore.
Steal, delete your backups. File server, we talked about that earlier. A lot of people still use shadow copies. Making sure when I get to that file server, I delete all of your shadow copies. I'm also exfiltrating your files because let's say I can't let's say you're doing the right thing, offsite backup out to a cloud environment. I'm not able to compromise that successfully. I know you're going to be able to restore if I encrypt you. So what I'm going to end up doing is just stealing your stuff and trying to sell it back to you. Or depending upon what, industry you're in, I could say, hey, I'm going to put you on blast and I'm going to embarrass the heck out of you. I'm going to let everybody know that I compromised you, right? So there's many different tactics and methods, and that kind of goes into the lateral movement. Why would they do lateral movement? It talks about why we're here now 4 hours, Marine Corps math, 4 hours into this, and they're now compromising my backups, or at least attempting to. Okay. And then now we have a 2-hour window where I'm seeing a ransomware note on every single machine.
Yep. And on that note, I mean, there's a lot of threat actors that are they're the 2-point ransom. They are going to go ahead and hold your data hostage, and then they're going to blackmailing you and say, hey, if you don't pay us more money, we're going to go ahead and say that we had already exposed your data and start to leak your data out onto the dark web.
100%. Look at that. All right, let's move to the next slide. So this has a lot to talk about with MSP. So we just hammered home and gave you some prime examples of what we commonly see, common scripts when it comes to these compromises, especially for MSPs, right? So there's a huge issue when you associate this dwell time, the amount of time that they had to go through that whole attack that we just spent a lot of time walking through, right? Here are the liabilities that fall under MSPs. So first and foremost, who's the finger going to get pointed at? Right? The MSPs are the ones that these customers, these clients are feeling responsible that, hey, you are supposed to be, you sell me these services, you sell me these tools, right? Aren't you supposed to be the one that are protecting my data? So what ends up happening is you can face legal repercussions from this, right? You can start the impact of them leaving you, the impact, the financial impact of how much time it's going to take to recover from it. Now you also have to start looking at the operational disruptions, right? It's going to be downtime. I could tell you, Beef, one of the, I said earlier that persistence stuck with me throughout my career. Another compromise that stuck with me is we were monitoring, actually, we weren't monitoring yet. Sorry. We were discussing with one of the largest gun manufacturers in the United States. They had I'll just say from a security standpoint, a messed up network because it was a hodgepodge of different solutions, no centralization, no full-on monitoring, right? Gave them this amazing demo because I'm great at demos. Let's go. And they said, yes, I'm into it, but I got to wait till the next budget cycle. Okay, cool. 2 weeks after, no, it was not me. Someone said that multiple times to me. No, it was not me. 2 weeks after that demo, they were hit by ransomware at their largest manufacturing facility. And they were down for over 3 days. I'm guessing multi-billion, I don't know, right? Over $1 billion company, gun manufacturer in the United States, can't manufacture their product at their largest facility for over 3 hours. I can't imagine, and I wish they would have told me, the millions of dollars lost just from that operational disruption.
Right. And there's definitely some certain aspects out there for different organizations. They're going to be able to either bounce back more quickly because their network was smaller, or they just weren't relying that heavily on their infrastructure to be doing their day-to-day operations. But there's definitely going to be situations where you start talking about hodgepodge networks. Think about acquisitions when they come in. A company acquires another company, and they haven't had a chance to completely merge and normalize their detections, their monitoring, whatever control mechanisms they might have. There's definitely a lot that goes into that in those situations where you have different networks that are coming together that haven't been normalized between each other, because what's present on one is not going to be present on the other, and that other one that's missing that key critical monitoring point, that's how they get in, and now they have access to the entire network because of the acquisition.
Yeah, 100%. Now let's talk about brand damage. That happens because, again, I said earlier, the finger has to be pointed at someone, plain and simple,
Real quick, Cory, before we move on, I just want to address one question. We got Charlie Lindell in there asking, suspicious login and a privilege escalation, and you don't have alarms going off. This is a situation where there is monitoring going on, but there's not somebody actively watching the console overnight. So this is a situation where 24/7 is not enabled. We're more on the 8x5 model, so we're watching during the 8 hours during the day. So that's why we're saying the dwell time.
There's plenty of organizations, right? So this webinar is primarily focused at MSPs. MSPs, I talk to so many of them that don't have a SOC. Right. And we're going to talk about this in later slides that have other that they're doing their own SOC services. Right. So there, and then there's a gap in capabilities or understanding, right, of intelligence of what they should be monitoring for. And a lot of people rely on out of the box vanilla solutions to help protect them, not realizing that that's not it. That's not going to save you, plain and simple. So let's go back to brand damage. Right. So brand damage. I mean, let's be honest, we're going through this, right? When there's a compromise, someone has to point the finger, and the person that's compromised or the person that's affected by it doesn't care how it happened. It just happened in the beginning. So I'm an MSP. My customer got hit. I'm supposed to be providing security solutions for them. And I could turn blue in the face and saying how it was out of my control. It was a targeted attack. And this is how they got in. And you know what? You, the client, said that you refused to use MFA. You insisted that you have open RDP into your network. You wouldn't let me implement backups, in your environment. And so now you got hit, but you're going to blame me. And then now you're going to go out on Reddit and just start blasting, bad things about my MSP or, right. You're going to, obviously small businesses, they talk to each other. Right. So, now I have brand damage to who my company as an MSP. And now I got to work my way out of it. So there's a lot of liabilities that come to this when you allow adversaries in your environment to do what they want. And you're only reacting when the actual compromise or the boom actually happens.
And you mentioned the talking to each other. That's one of the hardest things to combat because you don't know what's being said about you when you don't have the availability to look into it. You see people talking about it on Reddit. Okay, cool. I can see what they're saying. I can maybe make a response and do a little bit of damage control there. But people who talk to each other in private communication channels, you have no insight into what they're saying. So, customer A gets hit. They talk to customer B. Customer B says, okay, well, I moved over from them 2 or 3 years ago because I had the same issue, and it seems like they haven't fixed anything. So now you need to, make a decision for yourself on whether you're going to stay with organization A or not.
100%. Extra credit to those that know why I stole this verse image from. Extra credit to you. So let's talk about the difference between 8x5 monitoring versus 24/7 monitoring. So I've had thousands of conversations with MSPs over the last 10 years, I'll say 11 years. I hear a lot of the same thing. They don't have a SOC, right? Or they say, hey, my engineers, they'll get alerts, they'll get emails, right? And so my question is always the same. Okay, cool. That's awesome. You're doing it. So what happens at 2 a.m.? Is someone monitoring it? Oh, well, they'll see it when they get in the next day. Okay, that's a problem, right? So let's walk through this scenario. B, if you work for an MSP, you are their most senior engineer. Congratulations. You are their security guy. You also do 365 migrations. You're also an escalation point for all the different tickets that come in because you're the technical guru you're the printer mage within this environment. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Your life sucks. I'm sorry. Right? All right. And your CEO has tasked you with, we're not going to pay for SonicWall, SOC, Rocket Cyber, Huntress, Arctic Wolf. We're not going to pay for any of that. We can do this in-house because I got beef, and beef's the man. Let's go. Okay. So you're obviously not working 24 hours a day. So a compromise happens. That previous compromise started at 2 a.m. Right? So let's talk about your typical day. So compromise starts at 2 a.m. What time are you getting up in the morning?
I got to hit the gym in the morning. So I'm usually getting up at 4:30 a.m. So I can
4:30
by 5.
Okay. So that's 2.5 hours. Right? Let's say, again, it started at 2 a.m. That's 2.5 hours. So you get up in the morning, you're sleepy-eyed. Okay. Explain it. What are you doing? You're just getting up, you go in the gym, are you checking your phone? What do you typically do in the morning when you wake up? Do you look at your emails?
Typically do get a quick glance at my alerts that have happened overnight, but I usually not looking too far into it unless I notice something glaring that needs my attention. So if I've got missed phone calls, something like that, okay, that's a different story. But if I'm just looking at okay, I've got some emails I got to look at, a couple of
keep
things from
in
social
mind,
media.
you do everything there. So you got all the ticketing system emails, right? This came in, you got Sentinel-1 emails, and you guys are a smaller MSP, so you don't
Right.
have your own XDR platform. You don't even have a SIM, so you're just relying on Sentinel-1 to alert you. So you might have that email in there that Sentinel-1 detected something suspicious or quarantined Mimikatz on a domain controller, right? But you got to get to the gym, bro.
Right, but it's buried in there. It's not, like I said, unless I
Yeah.
happen to see it in the alerts as I'm looking through real quick.
That sounds reasonable.
I'm grabbing my phone, grab my gym bag, get in the car.
You'll get to it. You'll get to it. Today is chest and arms day. Let's go. Right, every day is chest and arm day. So, all right, you head to the gym, you work out. What time are you getting home?
Usually getting home around 6:30, 6:45.
Okay, 6:30, 6:45. So that's 4.5 hours that this has gone so far. Awesome. Okay, shower, shave, get ready for work. You work remotely, so you don't have to drive into the office. What time are you logging in for the office?
Usually on by 7:45, 8 o'clock.
Okay, 7:45. So 7:45 to 8 o'clock, let's be honest. Are you really diving through all your emails, or are you just BSing with your coworkers?
Nah, catch up with coworkers, looking at my email, seeing what
doing all
I may
of
have on
that,
for the
getting
day.
your morning started, getting your coffee in, your caffeine. You had your pre-workout, but you had a PR today. Got it, right? So you're getting all that in. Awesome. All right, so let's be honest. You see that email? Mimikatz was quarantined on domain controller.
Okay, so yeah, it was quarantined. Or maybe maybe there's some other stuff I need to look at there, but for right now, it's quarantined. Nothing bad happened. At least I don't think so.
That's it. Because you don't do this as your everyday time. It's not your everyday job. You don't deal with thousands of organizations. So you saw Sentinel-1 block something on a server in the middle of the night. Okay, cool. I'll get to it. I'll look at that later, right? Thank you, Sentinel-1, for saving the day and blocking something. That's kind of weird. I don't know. I don't even know what that file is. I don't even know what Mimikatz is, right? So you'll eventually get to it. But guess what? It's too late.
Too late.
You know why it's too late? Because guess what? It's 8 a.m. You're on Teams BSing with your coworkers, and you just get a call from your client. Hey, I log in and I have a dancing clown on all of my monitors. I wish viruses were still like that, right? Or I wish viruses were like Hollywood, right? I got a dancing clown laughing at me. Looks like we've been encrypted. So your customer is the one that told you they've been encrypted. Now, there's a potential you could have saved the day at 4:30 in the morning if you had the knowledge, right? If you had the time, the effort, the focus to be able to see that quarantine and start diving into it. But dude, you're wearing so many hats. There's so many tasks. You just want to get your butt to the gym and get a workout so you can start your day the right way, right?
Right.
This is the problem. This is the problem with 8x5 monitoring. This is the problem with organizations not relying on a third party to assist them with this. You need a full focused specialist when it comes to security. You can't just dabble in security to be good at security, right? This is the benefit of having a 24-hour SOC, because the majority of compromises, yes, compromises do happen in the middle of the day. We've seen it, right? But the majority of compromises are going to happen between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. That is the most common time of all of my 20-something year career, right, that I see compromises legit happen, or the good compromises. Nothing's good, but you know what I mean, right? The legit compromises happen between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. local time. And so this is where the benefit of having a 24-hour SOC comes in. Because if they're decent enough SOC, just like Charlie indicated, they should be seeing these suspicious logins. They should have indicators to know when these suspicious, anomalistic, suspicious, or malicious activity is occurring, so they can immediately do that containment. Your kitchen caught on fire. Going back to that smoke detector. Your kitchen caught on fire, so we need to contain to the kitchen. Put that fire out. Then investigate if there's any other fires in the house. That is what a 24/7 SOC can actually do for you, which obviously will do the rest of what you see on there, right? And then there is the other part that I didn't just highlight that is a huge issue, like we talked about earlier, was there is a educational and an expertise gap. So when you deal with 24/7 SOCs, they know what to look for. They know, they're basing it off of thousands and thousands of organizations that they monitor, right? What are the tactics and techniques that the adversaries are using? What new threats are out there? What new vulnerabilities are out there? What are the adversaries doing? Because there's no way this man here, Beef, who just did his arm and chest day, right? There's no way that he can keep up with everything that's happening in the industry, because he's got so many other things to do at work. Plain and simple. For those that didn't answer the question, that's that Street Fighter verse sign. All right. So again, what is a 24-hour coverage actually change? I just talked about it, right? You're getting those logs ingested. You got the experts looking at them and validating because there's a lot of noise. When it comes to ingestion of logs, there's so much noise. And that's why a lot of organizations miss actual occurrences when compromises occur, because you have to be able to weed through that noise. And so some people say, okay, well, all right, there's too much noise coming out of this, so I'm going to go ahead and just turn this off, or I'm going to move this over here. And then they're missing the key aspects. Cloud, monitoring of cloud. I'll always lead with cloud when it comes to monitoring. That's one of the most important things you can do because it's the largest attack surface bar none. Cool. With that being said, the platform that we use for cloud monitoring, I've talked to so many organizations that go direct. Yeah, you can go direct. You can get that platform. You can go direct. You can buy your own version of Splunk. You can even buy the XDR platform that we use, right? But do you know how to use it? Do you know how to configure it? Because you can't, I mean, heck, you can go out there and just get Sentinel-1, use out-of-the-box Sentinel-1. It'll provide you far better security than other solutions, but in my opinion, it's not enough. Like for us, the amount of heavy customization through star custom rules, through platform rules that we use and constantly update, it's dynamic, is what you have to do to maintain on the EDR side of the house with to align or stay ahead of what the adversaries are doing. So you're getting that from a 24-hour SOC experience. You're getting that threat intelligence. You're getting that person that's monitoring when they see something anomalistic to be able to isolate that machine or lock out that account. Then you're getting recommendations of how to move forward, right? Because that's also a big pain point. Okay, Beef, you realized your customer's compromised. What do you do next? You know, go to ChatGPT, say I've been compromised. Help.
Yeah, customers compromised. I see a dancing clown on the screen. I don't know what to do. What do I do with my hands? What do I do with my hands?
That's it. Perfect. That's it. Right. And that's where you need a partner when it comes to a SOC. You don't just need someone calling you and saying, hey, you know, you've been compromised. Best of luck to you. Right. You need someone that's a partner that can kind of guide you through. Okay, what the heck do I do next? We had an incident over the weekend. Same exact scenario happened Sunday. Bad incident. And so I got on with the CEO and it's like, hey, here's what we're seeing. We're diving more. And as more stuff is coming in, right, when we're starting to piece together that timeline, it turned into a much bigger issue where we said we need to get cyber insurance involved, right? Where they need to come in and they need to piece together exactly what's happened. We're seeing exfiltration. What happened during that exfiltration? How much did they get out? All of that needs a full-fledged forensic come in, identify what happened. So you need that partner on the other end that lives this life that can tell you, can I just pull the endpoint, re-image it, change a password and move on with my day? And you guys will continue to monitor? Or do I need to go much higher than that and start getting insurance involved?
Yeah, and unfortunately, that was one of those situations where insurance needed to get involved. We needed to bring in dedicated IR firm to go ahead and do the incident timeline and do an entire compromise assessment to figure out how bad it really got.
Yeah. So talking about dwell time, food for thought for everybody that's listening to me and still here. Thank you for still being here. I'm not going to hit the 30 minutes, but I'll hit the 45. All right. What you feed a SOC is important. So I look at it from 3 different levels of telemetry, 3 main pillars. You have cloud, endpoint, network. I'm getting intimate with you. I'm staring at you now. You need to feed all 3 levels of these telemetries to a single SOC. Reason for that is because, you know, I'm going to run you through this scenario here. Kind of aligns with what we talked about. It always starts on the left where there's Mimikatz quarantined on a server, right? If Mimikatz is quarantined on a server, I see the account that was being used, that was compromised, was D. Livingston. If I'm receiving your Active Directory logs, I can look at where is that account logged in the last 2 hours, 2 days, 2 months, or so 2 weeks, 2 months, right? I can paint a picture of how big is the scope. Then I can start looking at your firewall. Is there a VPN? Am I seeing VPN logins? Am I seeing brute forces, right? Is there a potential exfiltration that the alert by itself is not actionable, but I'm seeing this crazy amount of data going out to a Microsoft IP address across SSL coming from that same IP address that domain controller that I know was compromised? Well, that's evidence of an exfiltration. Now I can start looking at the cloud data, right? Look at their 365 data. Do we see any types of VPNs logging in from there? Do I see any suspicious email rules? Now, all this would have came in before that more than likely, but we're running through the scenario, right? All of this gives me the intelligence to identify when a compromise has happened. How it reduces dwell time is because we've gotten so accustomed to just feeding endpoint logs, Sentinel-1, CrowdStrike, Cylance/Aurora, Defender. We're so used to having someone monitor our endpoints that we just kind of forget or don't care about those other 2 levels of telemetry. But if your entry point was an SSL VPN, if someone is monitoring that SSL VPN, right, for that anomalistic or suspicious login, we can immediately identify that and kill it. Plain and simple. So this is the importance of giving your SOC the ability to help save the day for you. If you're just feeding them endpoint, yes, they can do their job. However, you're significantly increasing the possibility of dwell time because the adversaries are smart. They know what tools are in place. They know majority of organizations are just monitoring the endpoint. They know how to circumvent the most common tools. Hello, SentinelOne. Hello, CrowdStrike. Hello, Aurora. Hello, Defender, right? I've seen it. I've seen it over and over. I've seen them bypass them. And if we just had, I can't tell you how frustrating it is. I'm going to turn red in the face and start spitting everywhere. How frustrating it is that, part of my why of doing what I do is I don't like the bad guys winning. I want to piss them off. I want to give them a bad day, and I want to feel like a hero by saving some organization, even though, as we all know, if you're in this industry, it's a thankless job, right? I want to high five my coworkers for saving the day. And if I can do that before the actual compromises happens, now I'm successful. So I've stood on that hill. I've stood on that soapbox. The importance of being able to monitor all 3 levels of telemetry. Go back and look at it. Are you actually doing it today? Or is your provider actually doing it for you? Because we can. Marketing loves me for that. Okay. And a co-managed model. This kind of brings in what I was talking about earlier, right? So this is what we always lead with. We lead with a co-managed model because that helps reduce dwell time as well. Me as a third-party SOC, I don't know every nits and bits about your direct customer. If you as an MSP are involved in this conversation, this now we become partners, right? I don't want to be a vendor to anybody, and I don't want customers. It sounds super cheesy, but I mean what I say. I've been saying it for years. Plain and simple. The reason I've stayed in this position I am is because I've been enabled to create partners. We're in this fight together. We're an extension of your organization. And so being able, and this is exactly what happened this weekend, being able to call the MSP and explain what we're seeing and be able to get more detailed information from them about what they've seen, history on that client, what is expected in this client's environment between what it's not. Of course, I'm going to expect there's not going to be any open RDP. I'm going to expect that the SSL VPN might be in use, but they've locked it down, right? Maybe they're using SonicWalls, and after all that's happened in the last few months, right, they've taken all of our recommendations on how to properly use a VPN, and their configuration is as best as they can make it, right? I can get that information from them, plain and simple. And that helps speeds up and reduce the dwell time because you guys already have that information. I have the security expertise. We just got to collaborate together. And this is why we do it through a co-managed model. And then I said it to him, and I think he had an aha moment is when I call them and I'm like, hey, you can show we locked this down during the initial phases. So now you can go back to your customer and tell them you saved the day. Plain and simple. Remember how I said on my side of the house, it's a thankless job, and I'm fine with that. I don't need to be thanked. I want that MSP to be thanked. They're the ones that hired us. We're an extension of their organization, so it's their victory. They saved the day for their customer, and they need to celebrate their own success on that. Okay, we're at 35 minutes, so in between. All right. Hopefully I've hit this. I was worried. Beef. I was worried in the beginning. I was like, dwell time. What the heck am I going to talk about dwell time? How am I going to fill that time? This is going to be tough, but I like it. I feel good, right? We're in our thing. I didn't give you a lot of time to talk, but you talked. Sorry. I go on my tangents. I apologize. Do we have any questions that we haven't answered?
One just came in from Joshua Beckman. What about for someone at an MSP who is heading up security specifically, no other secondary duties, who wants to do the job well? How does that person run the program together with a security partner without just becoming a glorified messenger boy? Just take the alert and call the partner.
Yeah, that's a beautiful question, and I appreciate you for that one, Joshua. So my best partner is someone that has a dedicated person or a dedicated team that I can call. I can't tell you how frustrating it is when you call into an MSP. You're talking to the technician that basically he just fields tickets, right? Doesn't really know much. Or he's like, who are you? What company are you calling from? Why are you calling us? Right? That's frustrating. So for you to be super successful in your situation where you're at right now, it's doing what you do. You're not a glorified message taker. You are, you're basically, what is the term? Not ringleader. What's that show that Hugh Jackman was on? He was singing, what's his
role
in the circus?
Oh man.
I don't know, but you know what I'm saying? You're the orchestrator, the ringmaster. We'll say that, right? You're the one putting all the pieces together. You're connecting what's happening with your MSP and your clients with what's happening with your third-party SOC. You are the most important entity in this whole situation because you're the one that's going to drive change. Yes, my SOC can call you and tell you, hey, we've isolated this endpoint, but what are you going to do next? You have to know what to do next. There's been a lot of organizations that just take the SOC. Oh, the SOC isolated it, right? It was quarantine and they just move on. No. So ask the right questions. Do the right thing because in the end, it's going to be your success or it's going to be your failure, unfortunately, Joshua, right? So don't ever look at yourself as a glorified messenger. You are the catalyst of connecting your clients with the third-party SOCs or third-party vendors that you're using, plain and simple.
Yeah. And I will say in this regard, we are very much in a reactive environment a lot of the times. We are responding to alerts as they're coming in, and it's the same situation for our partners as we're passing information down the pipeline. Not only take that data in and know what to do with it, but also figure out how to stop it from happening in the future. We do our best on our end to go back and look at these events as they're happening and figure out ways that we can alert faster, prevent quicker, and entirely avoid these incidents altogether as best we can for our partners vis-a-vis their customers. But it's a collective effort to not just sit there and be receptive of information and passing it along. You know, do actions on your end as well. Learn what you can about their environments and what may be specific to them that may have caused this vulnerability to be present or may cause this weakness to be present. And, you know, that also comes with taking our recommendations and enacting on them.
Who's using VPN? Banyan? Yes. Okay. Yes. Obviously, here at SonicWall, we're talking heavily about CSE, no longer called Banyan, just like we're not Solutions Granted. We're SonicSentry now. SonicWall has been doing a lot of things to make the right acquisitions to kind of expand and grow past just selling a firewall, right? Just past just NetSec. Yes, CSE/Banyan/ZTNE is available out there. However, while I talk about the downfalls to VPN a lot, while I talk about, you know, how to properly configure it, it's still a necessary thing. We can't just go to an MSP and say, just today, drop your SSL VPN and move over to CSE. Your whole dreams will come true. It's not that easy. There's costs, there's implementation, there's sign in from the customer. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. So it always starts with proper configuration of what you have existing, and then start doing your homework, start doing your investigation, start looking at what is out there to see what is tomorrow's path, because the path 5 years ago is not tomorrow's path, and it's definitely not today's path either, right? So I agree, right? ZTNA is the next step, not just here at SonicWall, but if you're using Fortinet, WatchGuard, Palo Alto, Meraki, right? SSL VPN is becoming that dinosaur, just like gateway email security is becoming a dinosaur. So we have to look to see, okay, what's the next thing? And ZTNA will be what takes over the majority share of how people are accessing their environments. The Greatest Showman, Hugh Jackman. Yes, that's Greatest Showman. But I was trying to remember what his job title is for a circus, the guy that's in the middle and he's like introducing the show and making everything happen. I'm just going to go with ringleader. I think there's another word for it.
I think it's ringmaster is the other word.
Ringmaster, yeah. So, Mr. Q, you mentioned a timeline of 6 hours, around 6 hours. Why that time frame? What contributes to threat actors exploiting an environment more quickly than others? What does alignment look like for the client through MSP, through MSSP? Well, there's not a huge difference. Now, as we are sitting in 2026, there's not a lot of difference between MSP and MSSP because a lot of MSPs add that extra S on it because they're providing security services. It is a hard kind of differentiating fact. So I wouldn't do client MSP, MSSP, right? Times have changed. We're in 2026. Why that time frame is because that's the time frame typically dwell time happens. Now there are many scenarios. If you looked at any of my webinars 3 years ago, I'd say adversaries are doing low and slow. They're getting into an environment, they're poking around without, getting detected. They're trying to figure out, how am I going to compromise this customer to get the best bang for the buck? So, excuse me, what they're doing is like, let's say they compromise Bob's Bagel out of New York City, right? Bob has 3 computers. They get in, they compromise them because Bob has bad hygiene when it comes to security. And so they're looking around his machines and saying, there's nothing here, right? If I ransomware this guy that has 3 machines, I'm not going to get anything out of this. He's not going to pay $1 million to me. He's just going to re-image the machine. There's no proprietary data. This dude makes bagels and he's not storing it. It's probably in like the Coke recipe on a piece of paper in a safe if it's something, proprietary. And so he's going to poke around. Now, in a worst case scenario, he realizes that the law firm down the street or the accounting, the financial institution down the street loves Bob's bagels. And they come in all the time, and Bob saves their contact information, maybe even saves their credit card information on his computer because they come in every week. They come in Monday morning to get their bagels from him. And so now this is becoming a supply chain issue per se, where now he's going to target that financial organization through Bob's bagel. So that's that low and slow, right? Trying to figure out the best bang for the buck. What we've seen significantly of, because Akira is I talked about Akira last December before this big explosion in July, August. No one listened. Someone listened, but not that many people, right? I get it. Now here, Akira came, they got more sophisticated. They get into an environment and they execute, detonate as quick as possible. So they don't care. The more you compromise, they're going with the attribute that the more I compromise, someone's going to pay, right? It's like if I was, when I was a young single Marine, I'd go to a bar, I'd go around, say there's 50, females in that bar. I'd go around to each of them and ask them to go out on a date with me, right? And if I asked 50 of them, one said yes, hey, successful night, let's go. Plain and simple. So, that's kind of like they're getting in there. They're easily bypassing all the endpoint solutions. So that dwell time, you have seconds, right, to minutes right before they do that detonation. So you got to get them as quick as possible when you're starting to see those brute force attacks or failures to your VPN, et cetera. So that's where that dwell time comes in. But 6 hours is the more common outside of threat groups like Akira, where they're just taking their time because they're not as sophisticated. They're not as funded as other organizations. So 6 hours is a pretty good time, and they're going to start in the middle of the night.
Yeah, and as far as what contributes to the threat actor's exploiting environment quickly than others, a lot of that comes down to tradecraft. How advanced is that threat actor? Are they in their infancy and just deploying scripts and hoping that something sticks, or has an industry-wide event like freaking SolarWinds or Log4j as something like that happen to where now everybody who has a Kali Linux box has an opportunity to go out there and exploit somebody. But it also depends on internally, like, hey, what's their patch management like? Are they actively testing and deploying things, or are they waiting a certain amount of time because they need longer to test these things? This last Patch Tuesday we had from Microsoft, there were 4 zero-day exploits that were announced, and if we're not actively patching those quickly, it is no longer a 0 day. It's now an end day. And there have already been a few out there that have come out with public exploits that are now out there on GitHub or out there on the dark web that are up for sale. That, if those internal controls aren't addressed and patched, then they're not really there to control anything. They have a glaring vulnerability that with a couple of cursory scans, you're going to figure out really quickly.
Yes. To me, all of that comes down to configuration. To include patching, to me, it comes down to configuration. That is the biggest pain point for all organizations is bad configuration of your firewall, bad configuration of your cloud environment, bad configuration of your, endpoint solutions. You're not monitoring the right things. You're not blocking the right things. You're allowing people to be admins in their environment, open RDP, right? All of those are contributing factors. The vulnerabilities that come up, not patching, not caring about patching. It all, to me, all comes down to that one single word, and that's configuration. Why don't more businesses use geo-blocking? Because they don't know what they don't know. I talk about geo-blocking a lot, and, I've looked at a lot of firewall configurations over the last 3 months, and I'll see the checkbox for geo filtering in place. I say, hey, send me a screenshot of your countries that you allow and that you block, and everything is on allow. So again, configuration. They don't know what they don't know. They don't know how to properly configure it. I always say start with embargoed countries. There is no reason I need any type of ad or login or anything coming from North Korea. I'm sorry. I don't do anything with North Korea. Me personally, I wear a tinfoil hat, even though I'm wearing a black hat today. And I say, hey, if it's anywhere outside of the country, block it. Anywhere outside of where you do business, block it. Yes, you might get a ad blocked. Cool. But why, and then you can get granular enough with geo filtering to say, hey, for VPN, for logins, only allow these countries. I like IPs better, but that's a whole different conversation. So, again, it's a lot of people, especially if you talk about VPN, people go towards the ease of use. Let me get it up. Let me get it running. And maybe I'll deal with that geo blocking later. It's bad business. It's bad configuration. Using a third-party MDR, how do I give direct access to SonicWall currently? They are getting logs, but what can I do to make it better? How do I get them direct access to SonicWall? Are we talking about firewall logs? Direct access to SonicWall. Currently, they are getting logs. But what can I do to make it better? So if you're getting a third-party MDR, right? So obviously, as you say, get them access to SonicWall, it means not us. Okay. So let's say you're using another third party. Down with geofiltering, it really breaks a lot of shopping carts for websites. Okay, that's possible. I wouldn't do shopping carts on work machines, right? Michael Crean, hashtag Michael Crean has always been adamant. We got phones. If you need to get to Amazon shop, do it on your phone. We are way over. David, feel free to reach out to me. I like to kind of double click on your question. I'm way over, and I'm surprised. Chat has been going off. They want me to end it. Okay. Again, everybody, thank you for your time. I appreciate you sitting here listening to us talk. Look forward to the next webinar. This is a 3-part series. Take a look at it. Where you sign up for this, you'll see the other ones. Again, thank you. I appreciate for your time. I guess we can end it with that same horrible music that I started at the beginning, Beef, because that's how we came in. This is how we're going to go out, baby. I need more Red Bull. I've exhausted all my adrenaline. Beef, thank you, sir. Love you long time.
Take care.